Welcome back. I hope that yesterday's lesson went well for you. Before we begin, tonight's homework is IXL 7.AA.2. It is linked in Google Classroom. So be sure to complete that with a SMART score of 85 or higher, or 30 minutes. And again, if you need 30 minutes and you can't reach an 85, then you should be seeing me during office hours because you need that extra help, and that's what I'm here for. All right, today we're going to talk about finding the area of parallelograms and trapezoids. We went over the property of parallelograms and trapezoids yesterday, so we'll review that quickly today. Before we do that, we have three triangles here, and we need to find the area. Remember, the area equals half times base times height. So here we have a base of 8 and a height of 8 because it's a right triangle. So half of 8 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32. And area is always units squared. Here we have a base of 6 and a height of 5. Half of 6 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 feet squared. And here we have a base of 10 and a height of 8. So this is going to get to be 40 inches squared. Now I want to go over this one quickly. Remember, half times base times height. Commutative property says we can do it in any order we want. So I'm going to show you really quickly. If we had done half times a base of 10 times a height of 8, half of 10 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. If we had done half times base times height, and we had decided to do half of the height, half of 8 is 4. 4 times 10 is 40. You see the trend here? Or if we had done half times base times height, and we had done 10 times 8 first and got 80 and did half of 80, that equals 40. We get 40 no matter what order we do it in. So what I would suggest to you is, if you have one side that's even, do half of that, because you know half of an even number is going to be a whole number or an integer, okay? A whole number in this case, because you're not going to have a side that's negative. Now, parallelogram, again, remember, parallelogram has opposite sides are parallel, and not only are opposite sides parallel, opposite sides are also the same length. So the area formula for a parallelogram is area equals base times height, where if this is the base, this could also be the base, but the height is going to be the distance between the bases, okay? So it doesn't matter if you pick this to be your base, then it's from the distance from there to there. And it has to be 90 degrees. It has to be a straight line, or perpendicular rather. Okay, and the reason why is because if you took this parallelogram right here, and you cut off a piece, and you moved it over, it would create a rectangle. Okay, so here's the rectangle here, whereas this is the height, and this is the base, and that's a connection between a parallelogram and a rectangle. All right? Now, a trapezoid is different. A trapezoid has two different bases. The two different bases are the two parallel lines. And the reason why they're different is because they're different lengths. Okay? If they were the same lengths, then they would be a rectangle. But we're not going to talk about that, or a parallelogram. But we're not going to talk about that. Okay? What we need to know is a formula for a trapezoid. And the formula for a trapezoid is area equals half B1 plus B2 times H. Or, because this is multiplication, it doesn't matter, half times H times B1 plus B2. Okay? And there's actually other ways to write the same exact formula, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to explain to you what to do with this formula. Okay? So that way you don't have to memorize it so much. This is the most commonly used part of the formula, but there are other ones out there that mean the same thing. So once you understand what we're doing with this formula, things get easier, okay? Now, if this were a parallelogram, we would do the base times the height. But the problem is they have two different size bases. So if I did this base times the height, my answer would be too big because this base is bigger. If I did this base times the height, my answer would be too small because this base is smaller. So we've got a little bit of a Goldilocks situation here, right? It's too hot, it's too cold, but we need something that's just right. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to average the bases. If this base is too long and this base is too short, if we average them, that would be just right. So there's your Goldilocks situation, okay? So how do you average two things? Well, since we're averaging two things, we're going to add the two things together and divide by 2. Well, that's interesting when we look at our formula, where we're adding two bases together, and then what's the same thing as dividing by 2? Multiplying by half. So all you're doing is you're averaging the two bases, and then after you have the average of your two bases, you multiply that by the height, okay? So once you understand what we're talking about and what we're actually doing, the confusion of what the formula looks like goes away. So I'm going to write the original formula again, so that way you can see it again without me marking it all up, and you can see we added the two bases and divided by 2, because half of 10 is 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Half of something is the same as dividing by 2. You're averaging the two bases. You're adding them together, dividing by 2, and then after you average the bases, you can multiply by the height. Now, do you have to do it in that order? You don't, but now you understand where this formula came from. Now we can use it, okay? So here we have 10, we have 17. Well, 10 plus 17 is 27. What's 27 divided by 2? 13.5. So then you do 13.5 times 11.5 and you'd get your answer. You can use a calculator whenever you want. Here we have two bases. We have a base that's 39 and a base that's 17. Well, first we're going to average them. 39 plus 17 is 56. 56 divided by 2 equals 28. So the average of the two bases is 28. So now all we're going to do from here is we're going to multiply that average, 28, times the height of 16. And 28 times 16 is 448 feet squared. All right? I want you to attempt this. Now, again, if we had just done and we plugged it into our formula, we would get the same thing. Okay? So I want to show that to you, obviously. I don't want you to think, oh gosh, I have to memorize this. If you're talking about formulas, you can do the same thing. Area equals half times, we'll call 39 base 1, and then we'll call base 2 17, and it doesn't matter which is base 1 and which is base 2, times the height of 16. And if you plug that into your calculator, you get area equals half times, well, we know that 39 plus 17 is 56, because we already did that when we averaged it. And then we can do, from there, half times 56, which is 28, which we already got. 28 times 16 equals 448. It's the same answer. Okay? Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. If not, I will see you in tomorrow's class. And do well in your IXL, and I'll see you tomorrow.